Who are you, really? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you, really?
3, 2, 1. Episode 61. And Chris Perkowski, a sage of the lodge, has come around for the trilogy. Number 3. What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. So this is episode 61, and now when I think of 61, I think of Roger Maris. I think of the 1961 season, the 61 home runs. So I want to ask you, who's the real home run king in baseball? If we had to pick who is the single season home run king, who do we pick?
Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds. So you're not of the school of thought that, oh, Maris did it clean, Bonds did it dirty. It's truly Maris, not Bonds. Same goes for McGuire and Sosa.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, everybody was on steroids. You're facing pitchers that are on steroids too, and steroids don't make you see the ball better. You still got to fucking hit it.
Yeah, they don't increase your coordination.
No.
By no means.
So, yeah, can you imagine how difficult it is to hit 73 home runs in a 162 game span?
Incredibly difficult, because
by
the time you've hit your 30th home run in June, the whole league's walking you.
Yeah,
including with the bases loaded.
That's what happened with Bonds for his entire half end of his career. Is he had 150 walks a season.
His on base would near mid 400s,
yeah.
and he wasn't a 300 hitter
Absolutely
at the end either.
Absurd. He would hit about 270 with a 430 on base percentage, and then slugging 680.
Okay, so let's go with Barry Bonds is without a doubt the most tremendous power hitter we've seen in our time.
Unbelievable,
at
unbelievable athlete. The coolest fucking guy on the planet. Apparently he's an asshole, but which doesn't surprise me.
What are you gonna do? You make $400 million. What are you gonna do?
But apparently I know there was a story I read online. But so take it with a grain of salt. But a kid was talking about people were talking about oh, what's your celebrity encounters or athlete encounters that weren't as good as you would have hoped. Mm-hmm. And a kid said that at spring training he years and years ago, 2002, 2003, he was at Giants spring training, and Barry Bonds was walking to his car after, and the kid, who was a white kid, was like, "Barry, can I get an autograph?" And he turns around and looks at him. And he goes, "I only give autographs to black kids."
Oof. Oof.
So apparently,
poor white kid.
Apparently, he's an asshole. But he's the most unbelievable athlete I've watched in my lifetime.
But here's the thing: not all the pitchers were on steroids, right?
No, but
now here I want to preface this.
Yeah.
I agree with your argument, but I want to combat it in the way it's usually combated towards me. And you could argue that a lot of the pitchers, some of the best pitchers, were also on steroids.
Sure.
But not the whole league, right?
No, not the whole league. No, I think it's irresponsible to assume that the entire league was doing it, but we know that a hell of a lot of players were on steroids that never got talked about or accused, but.
And here's what I always say is you don't think there was a quote unquote steroid in the early 60s that guys were on?
Well,
those guys were jacked up on amphetamines throughout the whole season. There's always been players in every sport, at least across time, have always tried to get the edge with some kind of enhancement.
You and I have talked about this in the past, not on the podcast, obviously, but which is why I'm glad that you actually brought it up, because I like to talk about it. I think it's an important conversation in the sport.
I think so too.
Because there's plenty of guys who played in the 70s who were in the Hall of Fame who were on greenies. Like you said, they took amphetamines.
Yeah.
Heightened their senses. It quickened their reaction times. That's fucking performance enhancing, I'd say.
Without question.
Yeah, there's guy, and
80s cocaine was huge.
Yeah, I think it's completely. I think it was Mike Schmidt in Mike Schmidt's book. He's like, they had fucking bowls of pills in the locker rooms. He's like, everybody was taking them. And so then there's guys like Joe Morgan who have the gall to say oh, these Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, they shouldn't be in there. And it's like, well, motherfucker, you were doing it. You were doing greenies.
You had your own version of it.
Also, yeah, and there was I think it was the 1967 Chargers were implicated in a steroid ring. So if an entire team is able to get their hands on steroids in the 60s, other athletes are getting their hands on steroids too.
Exactly. Or again, it doesn't even have to be steroids, right? It's any performance enhancer. That's the argument, right?
Sure. Well, that's the argument. But I also believe that players in the 60s and 70s were probably taking steroids as well. It existed.
They were on the King Kong pills.
Yeah, and there was no testing. So, like, who's to say?
Yeah, that's true too. That's true too. No, it sucks because I feel like it puts such a stain on Major League Baseball when this is something clearly every sport grips with.
Yeah.
There's. But baseball had to go to Congress.
Yeah. I think pretty much everybody in the NFL is probably on steroids or human growth hormone.
Something.
Because if you're not, your body's not going to last a 16-game season, and now it's going to be a 17-game season.
Which we can get into that. Yeah. I'm not about that.
No.
But that not only are they on those performance enhancers, but they're on anti-inflammatories all season too. Mm-hmm. Because like you're going to take those hits throughout the entire season, your shoulder's going to be a little banged up near the end of it.
Your muscles inflame.
So you're on
everything.
Tons of anti-inflammatories to get you through the end of the season or the postseason.
You can't imagine after a game how swollen guys like body parts are going to be. If somebody takes a hit to the thigh, that thing's going to be fucking ballooned up because you're getting hit by a 250-pound guy who's wearing armor.
Well, yeah, exactly. And not only that, 250-pound guy wearing armor who's running like a
full speed, as fast as he can,
like a goddamn freight train.
Exactly.
But no, it's crazy watching the NFL sometimes because you see it. Like a running back will run 2 plays, he'll get off the field, and he's got an oxygen mask on, and it's like, what are you doing? This
and then also there's the entire thing where a bunch of players are getting cortisone shots, and they're getting cortisone shots or something so that they can go out back and play. You see a guy who's like limping or like crawling on the sideline, and
next thing you know,
and then three minutes later, he's running for a 90-yard touchdown.
And so I guess our overall thesis here is like none of this is wrong. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's got to be a line in the sand somewhere.
Yeah, you have to draw the line somewhere. But like in my mind, at least, if we're talking like Hall of Fame. In terms of, for baseball, like Hall of Fame candidacy, because there's the old school mind that's like, if you took steroids, you shouldn't be in. Well, we've already established that there's people in there who have cheated and that are already in. There's people who played in the 1920s before there was, integration in baseball, before black people, Hispanic people, Asian people could fucking play. And so there's, you've got Babe Ruth hitting home runs off of a guy who was a pharmacist in the off season. Like... it's just it's stupid. It's stupid. And to me, the athletic ability, the athletes today are far better than they were 70, 80 years ago. They're bigger and stronger and faster. Like
probably because of performance enhancer technology.
Probably. But like
that pharmacist that Babe Ruth hit the home run off of. Put his whole life into steroids.
But no, exactly. But like you watch baseball, you watch highlights, and there people are like, "There's the greatest player who ever lived, Babe Ruth," and you see this fat fuck choking down a hot dog and doing his little waddle down the bases.
But that's why he was the best, because that guy was a fucking mess. But you know what he
was also hitting against nobody.
But he could hit it like 450 feet.
Because they're throwing meatballs. No, they weren't throwing fucking 90-mile-an-hour sliders in the dirt. They were throwing them get-me-over fastballs at 85 down the middle. And he's creaming them.
But the exit velocity, right? Right? Because he's hitting meatballs. Imagine he could hit it. I mean, Babe Ruth probably, in his time, would not have been able to hit a 98-mile-per-hour fastball.
I don't know.
I want to see
Adam Ottavino made the claim in the offseason that he could strike out Babe Ruth. And it's like, if you look at the movement that Adam Ottavino has, and then you look at some clips, whatever clips are available of Babe Ruth, he's not facing movement pitches. He's not facing
he could sit on the ball being straight.
He's not facing a curveball that starts at your fucking hip and then ends in the lefty's batter's box. Like, it's ridiculous. What players can do now is absolutely absurd.
Well, and that's what's crazy to me is why I don't know why baseball's having as much trouble as they are advertising the game and advertising their players. Because you're right. I think
it falls to Rob Manfred doesn't know how to market the sport. His focus is on finding solutions to problems that don't exist. Where he's like, you know what? people aren't watching because the games are 3 hours, but now that they're 2 hours and 54 minutes, everybody's going to start coming in, and then nobody comes in, and he's like, what
What's
happened?
going on?
I thought this was
stand
it. Because if you're not a baseball fan already, you're not going to become a baseball fan because they got rid of intentional walks.
It's a legacy sport. It's something that's always... Usually, right? There's obviously baseball fans out there who've probably found it for themselves, but usually it's a game that's passed on to you
down
from
by
your
generations.
Parents.
Yes. Meanwhile, like, I'm a huge hockey fan. My dad didn't really watch hockey when I was growing up, so that wasn't passed down to me. It's just something I got into. Really, I got into, like, my uncle was a big Devils fan. I'm a big Devils fan because if I'd go over to my aunt and uncle's house, he'd probably have a Devils game on, and I'd sit and watch it, and that's just the team I started to watch.
That's just how it was.
But it was few and far between the amount of times that I'd see hockey. But that's how I was exposed to it, and I grew to love it. But like football and baseball, those were handed down to me.
Exactly. And I think the problem the league's having is, you're right, it's useless to go out and try and bring in new fans who don't really exist. What you need to be doing is how do you keep the
current fans that are already here that have been here for years?
And not only how do you keep them, how do you get Nick and Chris Perkowski to go to 10 games instead of 8? That's what you need to start figuring out. How do you? Because that's the thing. You don't need to.
Maybe it starts with lowering ticket costs because they're astronomical and people can't go to games.
Well, personally, that's why I do love Citi Field.
Yeah. No. Oh my God, Citi Field's incredible. Like if anybody's listened to either one of my episodes before, you know that I'm a big Yankee fan. But I go to Yankee Stadium maybe 1 or 2 times a season because it's
hard.
too expensive to fucking.
It's hard, and at least on Long Island, it's a little hard to get to too.
Completely. But you know, my fiance is from Queens. She's a Mets fan. I'll go to 10 Mets games a season because it costs $15 to get into the stadium.
Second game of the year, right? When usually prices are jacked up for the first few series. Second game of the year, behind home plate. Now, given it's the upper deck, but behind home plate, like first rows, $25.
Yeah.
Like the whole league should be emulating that to a degree, right?
Completely.
If you want to charge, an arm and a leg for the seats right by the dugout, you know what? Go ahead. But I think the accessibility is important. I think it's kind of what you're getting at is everybody's.
It's not accessible for the normal person.
Right.
It's catered to, and I shouldn't say every stadium because I've been to Philly a number of times and the ticket prices are really affordable. I've been to Washington a couple times and again, national ticket prices are extremely affordable. But then you get to the Yankees, you get to the Red Sox. I've heard horror stories about the Dodgers and the Cubs. Like if it's one of the big, like the huge franchises that like one of the bedrocks of the sport. It's impossible to go to games if you're a regular person. And especially Yankee Stadium. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're cool.
Yeah, especially Yankee Stadium. Like that stadium is built for Wall Street bros.
Yeah.
It's not. It's built for corporations. It's not built for families or for actual fans.
It's businesses who own like season tickets and they give them out to their employees.
Yeah. And if you you watch like a summer game and you look at like a Yankee game, a summer game, maybe a Wednesday afternoon, and you're like, how the fuck is behind home plate is completely empty? Like, how the fuck is this possible? Because there were $1,000 seats. Who's spending $1,000 to go see the Orioles versus the Yankees at 1:00 on Wednesday, June 8th?
To me, that sounds like someone who doesn't actually enjoy baseball. And I'm not saying you can't shell out cash and go to a baseball game. I'm not saying that.
But and if it's a World Series game, I get it. It's you're witnessing history. I wouldn't spend that money because I need that money. but I'm not. I could see it. Like I said, I could see it if it's the World Series or a playoff game, not fucking the middle of June.
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, stadiums are on average seat maybe 40,000, 45,000. The average ballpark, maybe a little less, maybe a little more.
I'd say it's probably somewhere between 35 and 45,000 for the most part.
And you don't need to sell it out to 35 to 45,000 different people every day.
No, get the same people coming in.
You can make it a weekend thing, right?
Exactly.
Like, look, what Mets tickets are what? Like you said, in the summer they can cost $15, $20 a ticket.
Yeah,
you can make a whole weekend out of that.
It's unbelievable.
You can make a whole weekend out of that. It'll cost you more to go to the movies.
Dude, I said field level at Citi Field for $20.
Yeah, right. I usually like up by the foul pole.
I know you do.
That's like my little spot right there. Which those are like $40 tickets.
I like the baselines. I like the. I can't remember if it's the Pepsi porch or the Coca-Cola
It's the Coke
corner
now.
Coca-Cola corner.
Same shit.
I like the Coca-Cola corner, and I like the second deck in left field.
Yeah.
Those are my spots.
Those are nice. I always like behind home plate upper deck because you really get like a great scope.
You get a great vantage point of
everything
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
The good thing about Citi Field is there's really not a bad seat to be had in the building.
I'll combat it with one. And I found that upper deck left field is the worst. Because any it doesn't even need to be a warning track fly ball and you lose track.
Yeah, because the overhang does cut off left field. Yeah,
yeah. So and it's not a bad seat.
I should actually correct myself as well. Little humble brag, I guess, but Maria's father had season tickets for 3 or 4 seasons, and the first season they were field level in left field, but they were far back underneath the overhang. And because they were probably 20 rows back, if there was any ball that was, if there was any ball that the left fielder had to go back for, you lost it. You lost the play. You couldn't see it. So that was the only downfall, was that I'm staring at the left fielder, but I can't even really see him because if he takes a step back, he's literally out of my view because he's blocked by the wall. So, but that's a bad angle. But most ballparks have that issue in the outfield.
Did you see what they recently did with Mets spring training, where they mic'd up the players while they were in the field?
I love that.
I thought that was brilliant.
They do it in the All-Star game, and they should do it in regular games.
Just do it in the regular season,
because it like that you get the issue with baseball. I think is that they are unable to market stars. And they're unable to show the players' personalities. That issue doesn't exist in football,
any other sport.
In hockey,
Let's be real.
Basketball.
Let's be real. Any other
basketball,
sport,
especially basketball, has so many characters, like James Harden, LeBron James.
It's like watching an anime, watching basketball.
Yeah. What's his name? Shoot, I can't think of his name. He was on the Thunder, and now I think he's on the Rockets. Well, that's James Harden as well, but Russell Westbrook, Russell Westbrook, with the way he dresses, to
the press conferences,
so fucking loud. Like those outfits are so loud, but you're just look at this character.
Well, it makes it engaging.
And then football, you've got people like Marshawn Lynch, who after the playoff game where he's going on for 5 minutes about get your chicken. Go get your bags, get your chicken, and protect your chicken. And it's I fucking love this guy.
But that's exactly what baseball needs more of.
Most baseball players are like, he had my curveball today, and I didn't get a good feel on my curveball, and I guess I'll get him tomorrow.
But no, the league needs to do a better job of highlighting its. It doesn't even need to be the stars, right? Highlight the personalities, because baseball
completely. It has personalities.
It has lots of personalities. Yeah. Dom Smith became an overnight meme because of his spring training game the other day. More of that. Because that's the thing. It made when I was watching that, I felt like I was able to actually fall in love with the players again like I was a kid. Because don't get me wrong, still love baseball, still love the Mets and players on the Mets, but I haven't really ever felt attached the way I did when I was a kid. Yeah. But hearing them mic'd up and goofing on each other and making fun of each other felt like I was in the dugout. It was it made baseball more immersive.
I love it. I love going on YouTube, and I will love watching NFL mic'd up clips.
Yeah, stuff like that.
I wish baseball would do it more, because they if you want to grow the game and you want to grow the stars and the players and make them recognizable people, because they're not, that's something that you should do. And you should give them a platform where they can show their personalities a little bit. And
more. Here's the thing. I think, and this is just speculation, but I feel like Major League Baseball keeps a tight grip on their players' social media.
For the most part, yeah.
And I think they need to kind of let the chains loose.
Yeah.
And look, maybe somebody makes a dumb or ignorant statement once in a while, but all press is good press. You know?
Well, there's people like Trevor Bauer who are extremely outspoken against the commissioner. And about the Astros, about Alex Bregman. He's got a huge feud with Alex Bregman, and the league doesn't seem to like it, but he doesn't really give a shit, and he tweets what he wants to tweet. So all power to him. There's dudes like Zach Greinke, who seems like one of the strangest but funniest people I've imaginable. If you hear dugout stories about him, there was one of my favorite stories was when he was on the Dodgers a couple years ago. Apparently they were in a big losing streak. Nobody was hitting, and so the team goes, the team's having like a closed door meeting, and they're like, look, if anybody has anything to say, I want you to say it. And so Zach Greinke stands up, and they're like, wow, he never. Apparently, they're like, wow, he never talks. This is going to be huge. And he's like, yeah, I've been noticing that a lot of you have been going number 2 and not washing your hands, and that's disgusting, and we should be better. And they're like, thanks, Zach. And then there's another one when he was with the Diamondbacks like 2 years ago. He was named as an alternate for the All-Star team. And so apparently he walks into the clubhouse and he goes, "Good news, everyone," and then sits down, and the manager's like, yeah, Zach's an all-star.
No, if you were Rob Manfred, what punishment would you have dealt the Astros?
What I'm really bothered by is the way that he keeps saying that. Earlier this week there was a statement that he thought about taking away the World Series championship, but there's no precedent for that. Then set the precedent, motherfucker, and take away the World Series championship. You want to make sure that this never happens again? Take away the World Series championship.
Because and look, that seems to me, like when I think about it, that seems like the only real thing he could have done, because the players are protected by the MLBPA.
Yeah,
like ideally,
the Players Association is not going to allow them to get punished, and whatever. That's out of their hands.
Exactly.
So
ideally, you take everyone on that roster and suspend them for a year.
Yeah,
ideally, but they're protected,
exactly.
so you can't do that.
Exactly, so that they have a fucking AAA roster, like fucking middling in the division,
exactly,
so that the A's can win one finally.
Good, good. They need to fill out
so
that
they
stadium.
Can finally get a division title. But that's not going to happen. So whatever.
But you couldn't. Did they even put an asterisk on it? Did they do anything?
No.
You had to do something.
No.
Stain. If you don't want to take
fans
the trophy,
are putting an asterisk on
as
it,
they should. Yeah. The fans should take the lead on that.
Yeah.
And look, you don't have to. Obviously, you prefer them to take the trophy away, but at least stain the damn thing.
Yeah.
At least put something on it that says illegitimate.
I've said countless times. I don't know if anybody listening follows me on Instagram, but I sometimes do Instagram lives when like big stuff happens. And when the punishment was handed down, I made an Instagram live because it was it was fucking ridiculous.
It was a joke.
It was a soft punishment, and the fact that it was a $5 million fine, which is the most that the league can fine. Okay, fine. Well, they should make an adjustment and raise the minimum or the maximum of what they can fine, because $5 million out of Jim Crane, Bob Crane, Jim Crane, whatever his name
whatever it is,
out of his pocket is nothing. It's $5 million to him is $10 to you and I. So. You consider the fact that the manager was the manager and GM were both suspended for a year and then subsequently fired. Well, bravo to Jim Bob Crane for doing that, but that's not, I thought that was to save face for himself, to separate himself from the whole thing.
And this is what I hate about it, and this is it's like, if you're going to have a league-wide administration, they need to be effective.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing here is that Rob Manfred essentially couldn't do anything.
No,
it was left on the owners to do the bidding.
Yes.
The Astros owner had to fire the GM and manager. The Mets owner the Wilpons had to fire Beltran.
Yeah,
and
which was the right thing to do.
100% the right thing to do.
And he'll never work in baseball again.
He shouldn't.
I don't think I don't think AJ Hinch will ever work in baseball again. I don't
Cora.
think Alex Cora will ever work in baseball again.
But my issue was like, what's the point of having these administrations at the top of the league if they're ineffective when you need them? It was left up to the owners to carry out the
issue is that the
punishment.
commissioner works for the owners, and as long as the owners are happy, he's going to be there. So,
I guess so.
Yeah, the fans may not be happy, and maybe if ratings are down, maybe if attendance is down, astronomically this season, if people boycott, but if people boycott, I could maybe see a change coming.
No,
but who knows?
Here's what's crazy about this whole thing. This is so good for the league because Astros games across the country are going to sell
huge
out.
Ratings and sell out. Whether it's out of town fans or whatever, just to boo them, or people tuning in because they want to see who's going to get beaned.
Yeah.
But
it keeps people's attention. And you know what? To me, it's like, let the league carry it out. To me, obviously, as much as we don't like the Astros right now, you don't want anybody to get hurt. Okay.
I hate the Astros more than I hate the Red Sox.
Well, you're a Yankees fan, so I
hate
get
the Astros
it.
more than
The
I hate
Red
the
Sox
Sox.
never did you dirty. When they took it from you, they took it like men.
Well, the Red Sox did do us dirty because they were cheating in 2018 with Alex Cora. That's what's under investigation now.
I mean, if you want to go that route,
So we got done dirty 2 years in a row.
If we want to go that route, wasn't Beltran working for you guys last year? Like if we wanted to,
I think he was in the front office in 2018. Yeah, I think he was in the front office
2019. So it's like the league's hands were sticky on this.
Sure. But the league says that the Yankees were not doing anything. They were warned in 2017 about something with Apple Watches, and it stopped immediately. So, but the same thing, they warned the Red Sox in 2017 about Apple Watches, and they were like, "Oh, sorry," and then they did the same thing in 2018. So, but the 2017, what really bums me out, especially about 2017, is that I thought that Yankees team could have beaten the Dodgers. I thought the Yankees team was good enough to beat the Astros fair and square. And I'm really, I'm annoyed that they couldn't get CC another World Series before he retired.
Well, it's going to be quite a show watching them, especially come to Yankees.
The Yankees-Astros rivalry now is maybe better, bigger at this point than the Yankees-Red Sox.
I'm sure
at least in recent years.
You'll appreciate this. You know a scandal is bad when it turns the league-wide heel into the babyface.
Right.
Like, now you know you fucked up.
Like, if you go on,
you guys, the evil empire. You're supposed to be what everyone roots against.
Yeah.
But now you're one of the good guys.
I know. It's pretty crazy. It's a good side to be on for once.
Yeah.
But, if you're like a Reddit person and you look at the baseball subreddit, the overwhelming support for, the Yankees in this situation.
Because the real thing is real, right?
Yeah.
You guys got duped. Doesn't matter that we hate that you could buy every player.
Yeah,
you guys got duped out of what was yours.
AL East fans of teams being like, man, I feel really bad for the Yankees. It's like, what?
Well, speaking of baseball Reddit, and here's what's not being talked about. You know who really loses in all of this? Astros fans.
Yeah. Because they looked like shit.
They lose.
They lose because they're like, what they thought was like the biggest thing that they've ever witnessed as a sports fan was a sham. And then for most part, a lot of them are like, well, everybody cheats. It's like, well, that doesn't excuse what you did.
But I've seen at least in the crawlings of the pits of Reddit, I've seen a lot of Astros fans are pretty remorseful.
So, there's a good deal of them.
There's some of them who are trying to bail their team out, like, it's just like steroids, okay? Everyone's cheating. It's like, yeah, okay.
And it's like, all right, fucko.
John Boyd doesn't have any other videos of any other teams hitting fucking trash
but
cans.
He's got 90 of the Astros.
Yeah, exactly.
But the biggest thing is, it wasn't John Boyd, but somebody else afterwards decided to take a deep dive and watched every home game of the 2018 season. And, 17? 2017 season. And found that on 40% of pitches, there were bangs. Now, keep in mind, though, that no bangs meant there was a fastball coming. So that's still...
It's still
an enormous amount of pitches
still doing it,
that is being seen.
Well, did you see the stat that against Clayton Kershaw in the World Series?
Kershaw, if
no
you watch it,
swings
zero
and
swing and misses on his breaking pitches.
Bullshit.
One of the greatest breaking ball pitchers of all time.
Ever.
Is just getting people watching his curveballs that start at their head and go in the dirt.
Zero swings and misses.
Nothing. He's not fooling anybody because they know, well, if he's going to throw a curveball, I'm not swinging at it, and they keep hearing bangs, so they're not swinging.
Also, Altuve, what a schmuck of a liar.
Altuve is a fucking asshole.
Look,
Bregman's a fucking asshole.
You need to come up with an excuse
Correa's a fucking asshole.
An excuse to not take your jersey off, and you go, oh, my wife doesn't want that. It's like, Fuck you.
Yeah, but
you're
then,
like a World Series champ and you're jacked. Your wife wants everyone to see the man she married.
But then Correa after that, he goes against what Altuve said, and he goes, well, he got a tattoo that looked bad, so he didn't want it to cut. He didn't want it to be seen. And then I agree with what Gary Sanchez said. Gary Sanchez said, if I hit a walk-off home run to take my team to the World Series, you can rip my fucking pants off. I don't give a shit.
Exactly. Exactly. No, and here's the thing is like, and the league and the media was tipped off because they asked that question.
Here's the thing.
Sure, they could have seen him like do it, but it just seems to me like someone, because the league knew, right? And like people have come out and said like, hey, we knew about the Astros for a long time.
The Athletics apparently complained to the league about the Astros back in 2017.
So can I ask a question, guys? When you say the Athletics, was it Billy Beane?
I have no idea if it was Billy Beane.
Just imagine
I'm sure
the cartoon version of
I'm sure it was.
They're cheating, Rob. I know they're cheating.
I don't know how, but I know they're doing it.
I've been in the league a long time, Rob.
He's got like
you work for me, Rob.
He's got like strings on the wall, like Charlie and Pepe Sylvia, and he's like he's just like I'm almost on it. I can see how they're doing it.
Is Finkel. Finkel is Ihorn.
But yeah, like apparently the Athletics and I think the Angels did too complained to the league on separate occasions about the Astros, saying like, hey, we're pretty sure they're stealing signs somehow using technology because they're doing it when nobody's on base, and the league was like, all right, and then did nothing. And then it took Mike Fiers going public on Twitter and saying, "Hey, when I was on the Astros in 2017, that we were stealing signs from opposing teams, because he got traded from the Astros to the Athletics and immediately told the Athletics, hey, they're stealing signs. I just want to let you guys know."
That's something that hasn't been talked about, and I get it because the players can't come forward about this.
As a pitcher.
Yeah,
when he's going and he's playing in division, he's playing in because now he got traded to the Athletics and he's playing in division. He's gonna have to face the Astros, and he knows what the Astros do, so he's gonna be like, "I'm gonna tell everybody on this team to make sure and watch themselves and change the signs constantly because otherwise we're gonna get beat." Because he knows
what's going on.
He knows. Excuse me, I keep burping. He knows the system.
But what I was gonna get at, what was I gonna get at? It's like what doesn't get talked about, and I get it because the players can't exactly come forward on details, is there were several players on the Astros who were not cool with what was going on.
The rumor is
because apparently didn't somebody confront Beltran and say like, hey, can you cut this out? Like this.
The rumor is that Brian McCann approached Beltran, and McCann is like the biggest like unwritten rules guy. Protects his pitchers when people bat flip, confronts batters that when they're coming around the bases. If you remember years ago, he Carlos Gomez hit a home run, pimped the shot, and then as he was rounding third base, McCann was up the third baseline going, "What the fuck is your problem, motherfucker?" and it started a huge dugout brawl. But McCann's the big guy in terms of like unwritten rules, and he approached Beltran apparently and said like, "Hey, this is bullshit. I don't want to do this," and he got overpowered by Beltran. Something I read that would like McCann had the least amount of bangs on the team, or like the second least amount of bangs. So he probably said something like, and he probably said, "Look, when I'm doing it, when I'm at bat, don't bang anything. I don't want to be a part of this." But apparently younger players approached him and was like, "Hey, I don't think this is right," and they again got overpowered by Beltran.
It's rough.
So something like this though changes the conversation of Hall of Fame though. To me, that's blatantly cheating on the game.
Bringing it full circle. Yes.
There's an issue if somebody's taking steroids now. I think that's different than 15 years ago when everybody was taking steroids. But in terms of the steroid era, I don't think you can blackball an entire era, especially when you have another era that cheated. That's all in.
And here's my other thing. Let's call this... I'm not going to use a saying for this. Fuck it. That era saved the game.
Yeah.
Let's stop clowning around.
I've talked about it to you. I've talked about it to everybody. I've talked about it on my blog, on my podcast. The steroid era saved baseball.
Let's not clown around
and
like
Bud
these guys.
Selig is well aware of it. Bud Selig made his career because of the steroid era. Bud Selig is in the Hall of Fame because of the steroid era. And he was in the steroid. He's in the Hall of Fame for being complacent and complicit with it. he knew it was happening and didn't do anything. Because he knew that it was saving the game, it was saving ratings, ticket sales were up. Like I said, TV deals were bringing in record money because people wanted to watch Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa hit home runs a long distance.
Well, a third of Mark McGwire's hits were home runs.
Yes.
The guy was hitting them every fucking game. But you're 100% right. I almost feel like it's disrespectful at this point. Like, I get it. Maybe it was technically cheating.
The fact that Roger Clemens, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, is not in the Hall of Fame. Steroids or not, is not in the Hall of Fame is absolutely ridiculous to the sport of baseball. When the Hall of Fame is supposed to be a museum about the history of the game and show the great players that existed in the game, and then you've got one of the greatest pitchers to ever step on a mound is not in the Hall of Fame. One of, if not the greatest hitter of all time.
Oh, the best hitter of all time.
In Barry Bonds is not there.
He's the least, the greatest offensive player of all time.
Nobody was more feared in the game than Barry Bonds because, like you said, people would intentionally walk him with the bases loaded.
Oh, it happened multiple times.
Because they didn't want to face him, and they'd rather pitch to JT Snow.
Well, think about it. If it's fucking Barry Bonds with less than one out, he's at least going to hit a fly ball.
Yeah.
Like... You want to roll that dice?
Exactly. No, like I just said, I'd rather pitch to JT Snow than Barry Bonds. I'm taking the chance.
Who's the guy? Who did he fight in the dugout? I forgot who he fought. I remember there was a fist fight in the dugout with Barry Bonds and someone. Jeff Kent.
Yes.
And Barry Bonds just fucked his day up.
Yeah.
Just fought. Both guys on roids, by the way, so it was a fair fight. But no, the steroid era saved baseball. And it's like, you know what? If baseball even wanted to create a separate section of the hall,
sure, and be like,
them,
hey, this was kind of a black mark on the game, but these guys were important to the game.
Yeah, exactly.
And these guys grew the game. Basically what the Hall of Fame is doing, and like I said, the Hall of Fame is supposed to be a museum of the history of baseball, and it's basically acting as if a 20-year period of the game doesn't exist. A 20-year period where the game had the highest marks that it had in its history at that point.
100%. It was the biggest sport. It's the last time baseball was the biggest sport in our culture. Because after the steroid era, football came in, and it's not going back.
No,
it's not going back.
No, football's it, and it's solidly it. Yeah.
Speaking of football, let's talk about that week 17.
If you're adding 17 games and you're not adding a second bye week, I'm not into it. And a lot of players are not into it. Well, a lot of veteran players. The issue is that rookie players and like depth players who are like, shit, I'm only going to be in the league for 3 seasons. So if I'm going to get an extra paycheck, I'm going to take it. Which, fine and fair to them, but then there's guys like Aaron Rodgers, J.J. Watt, who have spoken out and been like, look, man, our bodies can't take it already, can't take a 16-game season. You're going to add another game and not give us an extra bye week?
Lane Johnson had a really good proposal. He said get rid of one preseason week.
Which they are. It's going to be 3 preseason games.
And add a second bye week.
Yeah.
He's like, a second bye week's going to go a long way for a lot of guys.
Make it an 18-week season.
No, I would even say make it 17 weeks and give everyone... Well, it is technically a 17-week season.
17 weeks, so it would have to be
an 18-week season with 2 buys. Don't add another game.
Exactly.
Add another bye. Give these guys the day off.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest. And I guess here's my issue, just to bring both these conversations.
It would have to be a 19-week season if you're playing 17 games with 2 bye weeks.
See, that's what I'm saying. I think Lane Johnson doesn't even want an extra game. He's saying if you're going to add another week, it's going to be because everyone's getting a second bye week.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of on
board for that.
A bye
week between preseason and the regular season, I guess.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I'm on board with that. I'm on board for whatever helps these players. And just to bring both conversations to one, it's like...
and I just want to interrupt because look at something like this. Emmanuel Sanders was traded from the Broncos to the 49ers. He was traded, before the Broncos bye week and after the 49ers bye week. He played a full 17-game season this season. He didn't get a bye week, and then he played in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl.
Man's a killer.
You can't do that.
Man's a killer.
But you can't do that to people.
No, especially in this
with how grueling the game is.
Yes,
and the fact that he's playing a premier position and he's a premier player.
And here's what I was going to get at. It's not fair that the steroid era is going to face the scrutiny it faces when the scandal of the NFL and its concussions and treatments of players' health is a million times worse. What we're talking about with the NFL has broken up and dismantled families. McGuire's kids are eating just fine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
The baseball doesn't have any issues with CTE and players shooting themselves in the chest so that their brains are preserved for science.
Them driving home from the grocery store and forgetting where they live.
Yeah.
And having to like call the cops.
Doesn't happen with baseball players.
No. So
happens all the time with football players. It happens with football players who die at 55 of natural causes.
And that's why I think these motherfuckers are insane if they think these people are going to play another week. You're insane.
NFL owners are slave owners and they make money off of their players. They don't treat their players like human beings. They're guinea pigs.
They're moneymakers, performers, dancing monkeys.
They're useless. You know, they just don't matter to them. They're not human beings.
And that's, to me, the fact that McGuire and Bonds and Sosa had to go in front of Congress and nobody in the NFL does, to me, is laughable. Mm-hmm. It's laughable to me.
Yeah.
As much as I love football, I fucking adore football. I don't want it to go anywhere. Speaking of football, have you watched the XFL?
It's a lot of fun.
Are you into it?
I really am.
I haven't been that into it.
Really?
I have nothing against it. I just think I'm footballed out.
Okay.
I think because I love football, but
yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to be a 52-week football guy. I don't think that's me.
I'm a fan of the rule changes. I think they're really interesting.
I like their extra point.
Rule.
I like their extra point rules.
The 1,
that
2, or
I
3-point play. I love them.
I love that.
And I love every time there's a touchdown, the fans chanting "Go 4-3, go 4-3." But I think it's a lot of fun. The rules are different and interesting. And
I wish
think
McGloin wasn't such a pussy.
Jesus Christ!
Why'd we get the pussy quarterback? Why did New York have to get the pussy quarterback?
We couldn't get Cardale Jones. Look, like I think what's really interesting about the XFL is that it's going to give a platform for a lot of guys who wouldn't have gotten eyes from the NFL on them otherwise.
It creates jobs
that are going to now be able to, whether it's a practice squad job or a special teams job, they're going to be able to get opportunities after this season. So that's cool.
You know, I'm rooting for the XFL. I think it's a good thing
because it's huge if the XFL succeeds.
Yeah.
And I think the XFL is going to be able to, maybe the NFL adopts the kickoff rule. They want to find a way to get rid of concussions and unnecessary injuries. And
so
the rumor one of the owners said, hey, how about we just don't do kickoffs? Well, don't do that. Do what the XFL's doing.
Well, for those who are listening who may not know, can you explain what the XFL's
kickoff rule is? The only person from the kicking team that's in their territory is the kicker. The receiving team is lined up at the 30-yard line, and the defending team and the kicking team is lined up at the 40-yard line. They're 10 yards apart, and they can only go once the kick returner has received the ball. That's when they can go.
That cuts off all that momentum of these guys running train for 40 yards and hitting somebody.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I think that's a much better way to handle things.
It creates an exciting way for a kick returner to find a hole and maybe take it to the house.
And I feel like special teams now has more wiggle room to play with how they set up their defenses.
Yeah. So instead of proposing of just removing the kickoff, maybe take this, which is exciting, and it keeps the kickoff.
It keeps things relatively the same. Yeah. No, I would personally be in support of that, but I want to say, like, the XFL really did their due diligence this time because this isn't their first rodeo.
Yeah, and like the original XFL was borderline unwatchable. There's an ESPN.
How about that old kickoff where they put the ball at the 50-yard line and two guys
and just had to run for it. There's a ESPN 30 for 30 documentary on the original XFL, and it's a really great watch if you have the chance. But you'll see there, like, the football was not good. And I was worried after the AAF was so bad,
abysmal,
that this was going to be the same thing. But this, like, it's good football. Like, there are good players that are exciting to watch. Good games. Like, I think it's an exciting league. I like it. I was, like I said, I was worried that it was going to be another AAF where it was just terrible. but it's fun.
So are you a lifetime Guardians fan? Like
I've been a Guardians fan since day one,
yeah,
man.
dude. Like I have to say,
how can you not be?
McGloin's a wet pussy.
It's been a rough go. It's been a rough existence. I lose a lot of sleep over this team.
Big wet pussy for quarterback.
You put your heart and soul into a team, and you hope that they love you back, and they just don't. And it hurts.
No, they just bitch on the sideline. This is the worst football game I've ever been. This is the worst. This is the worst thing.
Fuck you, man.
Bro, you're having a bad game. Yeah. Be a fucking man about it.
Maybe you should look at your career and realize that this isn't an anomaly.
maybe you should. Maybe you and Taylor Swift should ask the same question. Am I the problem?
Right.
This is the worst fucking football game I ever played.
We got to change something. Play calling's terrible. It's like maybe you're just a bad quarterback. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
I think they should get. I think the Guardians should get Mark Sanchez.
Fine.
Bring in the franchise. That's what I want to see the XFL become. Mm-hmm. All these just fucking guys. Like, where's Josh McCown in 3 years? He should be a New York Guardian.
I mean, Josh McCown's 42 years old. I don't know how much
more he's going. Imagine he got his ring in the XFL. He brought a title to New York. Let's go.
Imagine Brady signs with the St. Louis Battlehawks in the offseason.
By the way, this is nothing but horse shit, right? He's going to be a Patriot.
I don't know.
Like, no, he's not going to be a Raider.
I'm starting to buy into it, man.
The Patriots do this every offseason. They find some reason to be talked about on ESPN every day.
I know, but I'm starting to buy into it. I can see him going to, like, the Titans.
The Titans?
Yeah.
No, I'll tell you why. Nothing would be worse for Tom Brady than for him to go somewhere else and even just be, like, less than he usually is. Because the second he goes to the Titans and has maybe a good season for a quarterback, but a bad season for Tom Brady, everyone goes,
he already had a bad season for Tom Brady.
Yes, you're right.
This
past season wasn't very good. And this never used to be a problem.
And it wasn't even a good season for a quarterback.
And this never used to be a problem for Tom Brady. But he didn't have a lot of talent around him. Right. Usually it's not a problem for him. But in his old age, maybe it's starting to get that way. But I guess what I'm getting at is if he goes to the Titans or if he goes to the Broncos or if he goes to the Raiders and he just does not play well or he has a 2019 season all over again, people are going to say, oh, so it was really Bill this whole time, wasn't it? You really were that, 7th round pick from Michigan or whatever the hell it was.
I mean,
that's what you really were this whole time.
To be fair, the guy's 42 years old as well.
You're right. No, logically, a wiser mind would be able to write it off. I'm just saying for his legacy, if he does this, he's going to face that slander. Michael Jordan has to face it.
Yeah.
Because of the way he
decided to come back with the Wizards. Yeah,
exactly. So.
And people didn't realize, like, oh, man, he sucks, rather than, he's 40 years old.
He's a fucking old man. Yeah. So if the Patriots really are done with Tom Brady, then Tom Brady really should just walk away. That's just my opinion. Of course, I don't give a shit.
If I'm Tom Brady and I'm walking away, but I'm walking towards a $70 million contract for 2 seasons, I'm going to take that $70 million and play in Nashville.
Suck?
I'm still making $70 million over 2 years.
To Tom Brady's credit, because
he's
never been a man about the money.
He has pushed money aside so that they can make additions to the team for years. If Tom Brady leaves, the Patriots still have $13 million that's been pushed back for him. So on the upcoming cap, $13 million, whether he's on the team or not, is designated for Tom Brady this coming season. But
all the more reason he's just going to be a Patriot.
He's
just gonna be a Patriot.
The Patriots beat writer doesn't work for the team. Is saying that from sources that he's getting that it's looking more and more like it's an actual possibility that he leaves.
No.
All right, so what are you gonna say?
Because his beat writer.
Let's put
beat writer's getting a lot of clicks by making a lot of noise.
He's not the only one that's saying it.
Of course not. Everyone wants a piece of the pie.
Weeks.
Everyone wants a piece of the pie.
It's been said for weeks that the Raiders are talking to him and stuff like that, and the Titans want him. But now it's coming out that the Titans, who I thought were just going to re-sign Ryan Tannehill, are saying they're going to let they want Tannehill back, but they're going to let him experiment with free agency. And that means the door's open if they want Tom Brady to come in, and they've got money to spend there. That frees up money for Tom Brady then. So if Tom Brady were to go to Tennessee, can't you see Ryan Tannehill fitting in Belichick's scheme in New England?
I would love nothing more than for some weird swap like that to happen, and for Tannehill to kill it and Brady to shit the bed.
Yeah,
it'd be easier to not hate. The Patriots.
I will say this entire QB carousel that's going on this offseason, where there's 10 jobs that are available and like 20 quarterbacks to fill them, like has never happened in my experience of watching football. It's insane.
The league is athletically bankrupt at the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm. There's openings at with the Chargers, the Titans, the Raiders, possibly the Buccaneers, the Colts, the Patriots, these are good teams. Panthers, maybe
there's
the
a lot
Bengals.
Of good teams.
Shit, there's so many fucking teams that need a quarterback or that are moving on from a quarterback and going elsewhere. And this free agency is going to be so exciting.
See, thank God our teams don't have this problem.
We're set.
We're pretty set.
Yeah,
we're pretty set.
I don't think we've witnessed as football fans an upcoming offseason that's going to be as exciting as this coming one.
What's going on is a lot of the old guard is leaving the league.
The league is going it's going through a transition phase.
And that's the thing. A lot of those the next Tom Brady, the next Peyton Manning,
mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers,
mm-hmm.
they haven't quite emerged yet. So there's some potential with guys like Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
There's some potential with some of the young talent
mm-hmm.
in the league. But the new kings haven't really emerged. For a long time, we had
I disagree.
Who do you what young talent do you think?
Mahomes is the guy.
I can't argue with that.
Mahomes, Russell Wilson, who's still only 30.
But that's my thing. I don't see Russell a great quarterback. Any team would be lucky to have him, my team included. But he's not a top 5 quarterback.
Absolutely, he is.
He
changes that team.
Definitely, he changes whatever team he goes to.
That's a top 5 quarterback.
I don't
if
think
you go to any team, look at the numbers that he puts up. Look, you go to any team and you change the team for the better, and you make them a better team just by your presence. That's a top 5 quarterback.
But I think there are potentially, we could have this conversation, but 5 other quarterbacks who have just as positive, if not more of a positive impact.
Who right now?
Who right now has just as much? Okay, who do I think is better than Russell Wilson right now? Going off the last 2 or 3 years. Okay. If we talked last year,
Russell Wilson should have been the MVP this year. Probably could have been last year, but Mahomes threw 50 touchdowns.
I was going to say,
it's between. Honestly, it was until Wilson had 2 bad weeks to end the season. It was pretty close between him and Jackson.
Interesting. You think it was that close between Jackson?
Jackson doesn't have the arm talent.
He didn't.
And we saw it and we said, no, I know. But then but Wilson does. Wilson can do everything that Lamar does on his feet, and he's got elite arm talent.
Not only that, incredible both as a pocket passer and when he rolls out.
Yes.
I just don't see him as top 5, maybe 6, 7, 8. But look, at the end of the day,
but tell me who in the league is
who would I pick?
Give me 5 names over him.
So
we know Mahomes.
Mahomes and Jackson would probably be my first 2.
Jackson already. He's played 2 seasons. He was bad his first season, and now he had 1 good season. Where again he couldn't pass.
Not just 1 good season.
Sure, he had a great season where he could.
It was a legendary season.
He had a really good season where he couldn't pass.
He did a lot of.
He had a really good season where he couldn't pass, and then in the playoffs when the Titans decided, hey, we know how to play defense on this guy, and he shit the bed.
And look.
Because he was exposed. That's 2 years in a row in the playoffs where this guy is exposed.
So was Russell Wilson exposed in the playoffs this year when he lost?
I mean, he's got a Super Bowl.
Okay, but he's got, a 7-year career?
Yeah, and he's got a Super Bowl, and he should have had an MVP award. Sure, but then
shoulda, coulda, woulda. Lamar Jackson was the MVP. So right now, you're asking me right now. Of course, I take Mahomes and I take Jackson over him. I also still, and I'm open to being wrong about this, but I would still take Aaron Rodgers before him. Still, I don't think Aaron Rodgers has any talent around him.
No, he doesn't. I think
him.
Rodgers is on the way down. I still think he's probably a top 5, top 6 quarterback.
That's it. I agree. He's on his way down.
I still think Breeze is a top 5, top 6 quarterback.
Breeze is another one that I would pick, but he's another one on his way out. In terms of
those are 4, and I'll give or take Jackson on that. I don't know who I'd replace Jackson with. But Wilson is definitely there. To me, the top 5, at least the top 4, are the ones you named, except Jackson and Russell Wilson. Mahomes, Breeze, Rodgers, Wilson.
I'm also going to put.
Who else is above Wilson?
I'm also going to put Brady. If I'm being honest,
Not
if we take the
anymore.
last 2 or 3 years, I'm still going to pick Brady.
If you take the last 2 or 3 years, he's not better than what Russell Wilson's been. He's been bad.
He's a champion.
He's a champion, but he's been bad.
But how come you could use Super Bowl as potential for Wilson, but we can't use it for Brady?
Sure, but how did Brady do in that Super Bowl that he just won 2 years ago?
He won.
The game was 13-7.
But he got his team there, and he scored more points.
He didn't get his team there. He didn't get his team there. The rushing game got them there, and the defense got them there.
What about the Seahawks defense then? Well, you know what I'm saying? It's like
and the Seahawks defense and Wilson also put up 48 points.
Complete teams are
on the best
teams.
Defense in the league.
Sure, he had a good game, but he didn't. Look,
if you've got the internet there. Pull up Russell Wilson's stats for the last however long you want. Look at him ranked among quarterbacks every season. He's in the top 5 in every category.
Look, if we're going based on that, then Eli Manning is top 10 quarterback all time because he's top 10 in a bunch of offensive categories all time.
I think he's
right
the
now.
top 10, top 15 quarterback of all time.
Eli
considering everything he's done, touchdowns, passing yards, completions, just the clutch factor.
I'm usually people call me an Eli Manning apologist, but we could definitely revisit that debate. What's up, Charlotte? Just walking in on the podcast?
You have no respect for the art.
Jesus. Oh, man.
My bad.
What's up? How are the cats?
How's it going?
Pretty good. Well, cats are good. They're brats.
They're brats.
I gave Max 3 cans of food. It was ridiculous.
And he's probably not thankful in the slightest.
Not at all. I'm going to bed. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Honey. Okay. But I definitely want to... We could talk... We got a lot... Damn, we opened so many cans of worms. We have 5 minutes.
Oh, no.
All right, look, I'll extend the olive branch. Of course you can make the case that Russell Wilson is a top 5 quarterback. I'm not trying to put him much further away from that. I told you, he'd be like a 6, 7, 8.
But you're not. But I mean, I just don't accept. I just don't accept Brady. I just don't accept Brady over the last 3 years when he's been bad over the last 3 years.
He just won. How many Super Bowls has he won in the last 3 years? Is it 2 or 1? It's 1. In the last 4 years, it's 2, right?
Yeah,
it's like, so
he was good 4 years ago.
So what are we talking about?
You're talking 3 years, and the Super Bowl he won, he was terrible in.
It was. But what about the Super Bowl with the Eagles, where he had the best offensive Super Bowl of his entire career? That was just 3 years ago.
And the regular season was bad.
How it couldn't have been that bad.
He was
if the
bad
Patriots had been in the Super Bowl
because
3 of the last 4 years.
Have you not realized how Belichick builds these teams? He's a master at building defenses cheaply.
It takes a complete team to win. No doubt about it. It takes a complete team to win. But you can't
And
win
Brady has gotten to the point where he's a game manager. And he's been a game manager for 3 years.
What's wrong with that?
That doesn't make him a great quarterback.
Is it part of his job?
When there's other quarterbacks who can play quarterback better than him at this point.
But can they win as efficiently as he wins?
I'd say Carson Wentz is better than Tom Brady at this point. And Carson Wentz can't stay healthy.
I don't know.
When healthy at this point, 2020, 2019, 2018, I take Carson Wentz before I take Tom Brady because he's a better regular season quarterback than Tom Brady.
If I'm building a team,
Russell Wilson is without a doubt better than Tom Brady. He's without a doubt better than Carson Wentz.
If I'm building a team from scratch, sure. But if we're talking about if I'm picking just for a team 2020 and I could pick any quarterback I want, Tom Brady has to be in that top 5 for me.
You're not going to do very well then if you're putting all your baskets in a 42-year-old Tom Brady bet.
You can say that, but if New England does what they've done and they continue to win divisions and make a push into the end of the postseason, I don't know how you can say
lose
that.
to a 9-7 team in the first round. Go for it.
At the end of the day, in the last 3 years, they've been to the Super Bowl twice. They've won once
because of defenses and special teams.
But you can't say that because Tom Brady had the best Super Bowl of his career. Just 3 years ago,
and he had Julian
Eagles.
Edelman play the game of his life that people said he's a Hall of Famer for, but he's not a fucking Hall of Famer.
Every good quarterback has their weapons.
Sure.
Why are we holding Edelman against Brady?
Okay, what weapons has Russell Wilson had other than Marshawn Lynch?
Who's his tight end? Don't they have a solid tight end?
When?
Like right now?
No, not really.
No, we don't know.
Not really.
Okay, but But I'm pretty sure he's had adequate weapons in Seattle. I'm not
He's
well-versed.
had adequate, no like game-changing wide receivers. He's had adequate talent. Just as Tom Brady has had adequate talent that he works with. And Russell Wilson's numbers are better.
And sure, maybe his numbers are better, but who's winning more?
I mean, the Seahawks have, if we're talking regular season or whatever, regular season, the Seahawks have been a better team.
What matters
or
more,
just
the regular?
as good.
What matters, the regular season or the
Dude,
postseason?
we're talking top 5 quarterbacks, and we're talking about talent. And
So
we're
why?
talking about,
So
if we're talking,
to me, it's
talking
more than
talent,
just talent.
stats, whatever.
It's more than just talent.
Intangibles. Then it's Wilson has everything.
You brought up how Tom Brady is a game manager, and you're holding that against him
because he doesn't have the talent that Russell Wilson has at this point.
I'd say his game managing talent has made him so adaptable in his old age that he could still make runs at the championship.
Why? Because he's got a good defense.
But it's more than that, man. It's got to be.
But it's
more
not
than
if he's
that.
not doing much. If he's a game manager and he knows, well, if I throw the ball 20 times and I throw for 150 yards and I get a touchdown, I can hand it off because then we're gonna do it. Well, Russell Wilson has for the last couple of years hasn't had that ability and has to do everything himself. That's what makes him great. You're saying Rodgers is better than Wilson for the same reason because he doesn't have any weapons around him. Rodgers' entire game is running 100 yards around the field and then throwing it 80 yards down the field. That's what Wilson does. He's just further away.
Look, if we're talking numbers, I can't argue with you, but I'm arguing more than just numbers. Is kind of my point. If we're gonna line up the stats of Russell Wilson with everybody in the league, of course he's gonna be top 5. Of course, his touchdown to interception ratio is brilliant. Of course, his completion percentage is great. His rushing yards, other than Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes, maybe, like who's got more than him? He's in the top 3. So I'm not going to argue statistics when it comes to Russell Wilson. And if you want to look at football through that lens and say statistics tell most of the story, you can make that case too. I'm not going to hold that against
you.
You
also have to look at intangibles and who does more with what they have. Nobody does more with what they have than Russell Wilson does.
I think I have to disagree with that. I don't know. Right now, if I could have a team, look, if I'm building a team from scratch for the next 10 years, of course I take Russell Wilson before Tom Brady. If I'm building a team for 2020, I still would place my bets on Brady being a champion than I would Russell Wilson being a champion. Not a shot at Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson's brilliant. You know, I would take him on my team, not a shot at Carson Wentz. But if I'm trying to win in 2020, bring home the ring, there's just a part of me that has more faith in Tom Brady to do it than Russell Wilson.
I think Russell Wilson and the Seahawks win a Super Bowl within the next 2 years.
That would be cool to watch. And then you can come back on here and shove it in my face. Mm-hmm. That would be great. All right, so okay. So we have to wrap it up, but let's leave it at that. When you come back, I want to talk about Eli Manning, and you really think he's top 10, top 15 all time?
Again, if you have to look at, if you have to look at stats and you look at clutch factor and big game, big game performances and stuff like that, I don't see how he's not in the conversation. Maybe he's not top 10, not top 15. He's a Hall of Famer at the very least.
I would never argue that. I have to argue it with some people.
Sure.
Some of them Giants fans.
Sure.
I don't understand how
if
you
you're
deal
a Giants
with this.
fan and you don't think Eli Manning's a Hall of Famer, you're a fucking goob. Like,
1 second.
I think I just made up a word.
We're gonna find out.
I meant to say
someone who is silly or stupid.
Ooh, goob. Yeah, shortening of goober. Goob is a word.
That guy's a total goob. I can't ask him to prom.
I was going to say goon and goober, and goob came out, and it works because it's a word.
You got some slang. There we go.
Perfect.
There we go. All right, so we got to wrap it up. All you goobs, thanks for tuning in. Chris Perkowski, where can the people find you before we sign off?
At Dr._Perk on Instagram and Twitter, and then at Charging the Mound is the blog, and that's the Instagram for it as well.
All right, motherfuckers. If you didn't catch that, it'll be in the episode descriptions. Thank you for tuning in. This is episode 61. Mr. Perkowski, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me again.
And we'll see you all for episode 62.
Nonsense. You're playing a trick on me. Really, deep down, who are you? I don't know. Well, that's the thing to find out. That's the thing that's been forgotten. See, that's the underside of the tapestry, the thing that's been left out. Because what we are carefully taught to ignore is that every one of us fundamentally deep inside is an act of, a function of, a performance of, a manifestation of the works. The whole blinking cosmos, with all its galaxies, and forever and ever and ever, whatever it is beyond that. What you might call God in the Western tradition, or Brahman in Hindu philosophy, or Tao in Chinese. Every one of us is really that, but we are pretending we aren't. And we are pretending with tremendous skill and deception. Who are you?